Okay, so I'm here with Megan. Megan is so kind to sit with us and do a Theramonial interview. So, Megan, say hi. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for being here. And I am just going to go through a few pretty broad questions. I'll just kind of remind you if there's anything that you just don't feel comfortable talking about, just say so and you won't get any pressure.
Okay.
Um, and if there's anything extra that you want to add, make sure to pipe in. I tend to steamroll. So,
Okay.
let me know if you need more time to say something. But other than that, let's just kind of get started. So, what made you first curious about therapy?
Well, before I started therapy, I was at a place in my life where I was just very unhappy, and I got to a point, I think you could say, it was rock bottom, where I just didn't want to live like that anymore, and I was so miserable. And I remember there was a moment where I was like, is this how I want to live my life? And I just believed that there was more to life than what I was living at that time. And so that kind of got me curious about therapy and reaching out to someone who could potentially help me get out of that darkness.
Sure, sure. So, what was it like to first reach out and start looking for a therapist?
It was terrifying. Um, and I think what helped me kind of open that door was realizing and accepting that I needed help and that I wasn't okay.
Mm,
Um, and that kind of freed me from the shame, I guess.
sure.
Um, but once I started meeting with a therapist and talking, I realized that I had never felt so heard and understood before,
Mm,
which kind of got the ball rolling for me.
cool. Good. So, how did you know your therapist was a good fit? Like, how did you know you felt understood and, that validation?
I immediately felt just very safe and that I didn't have to try to be someone I wasn't. I could just show up how I was that day in that moment.
Mm,
And I felt like my therapist genuinely cared about me and my experiences and wanted me to see myself the way she saw me. And like I just felt very, very validated.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, so what was most helpful specifically? Like any sort of specific, I don't know, exercises or just the way that she was with you, or what helped the most?
Um, I think because I was carrying around so much shame and I had zero self awareness at that time. And she kind of taught me how to have self awareness and to view my experiences and my emotions with curiosity instead of shame and judgment. And once I kind of let go of judgment and kind of like figuring out, okay, why am I feeling this way? And kind of connecting that to my history and my experiences, it kind of just like released all this weight that I'd been like carrying around.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, like, teaching me those tools that I could do myself was the most helpful, I think, because I've kept those tools and carried them with me through different stages in my life. And I don't think I'll ever forget them.
Sure. I'm curious, would you mind sharing what the tools are? It sounds like, and I might be wrong, like mindfulness kind of training, like self-acceptance, but kind of, you know, real concrete tools. Like what specifically was she helping you learn? What was she teaching you? What were you going home with?
Yeah, like you said, I think a lot of it, like the foundation was just mindfulness and being aware of my thoughts and my reactions to certain things and not like holding on to them and just kind of like viewing them how I would kind of objectively.
Mhm.
And so I think that that was the most important thing I learned, because I did come from a place with really zero self-awareness.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think that tool was the most helpful and is the most helpful
Yeah.
still.
It sounds like it almost just changed. I don't know if changed is the right word, but really shifted something at your core. Like you said, like I can't, like you can't even imagine kind of going back. It just shifted, and that validation from her and the consistency from her, and it sounds like very loving redirection and kind of reframing to
Yeah,
help you just kind of offer you some other ways to do life and to see yourself.
right,
Um,
exactly. And just normalizing it also.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
good. Um, so what didn't work? Was there any part of it that just didn't work?
Hmm. Um, okay, I might take a long pause here.
That's okay.
It didn't work. Like from my therapist?
Yeah, and yeah, from her or in therapy in general, anything that felt like it got in the way. Maybe it was like the logistics of you had to drive really far, or it was expensive, so you had to go more slowly than you wanted to, or maybe she gave you a homework assignment that you just could not mesh with, so you had to come back and ask for something else. Anything like that.
Um, Maybe the one thing that, I mean, we made it work, but it was just having a session once a week, due to both of our schedules.
Okay,
And at times I felt like I really needed more than once a week.
I see.
But we made it work
Yeah,
and I ended up being fine. But that was the only thing that I would say was kind of hard, just scheduling.
sure. Yeah, for sure. So how did you know, or how do you think you will know, if it's not over yet, that therapy is or was complete? How did you know that it had kind of worked, and that or how would you know, and how would it feel, do you imagine, to kind of be done?
Yeah, I think I reached a point where I was going weekly and I started to feel like I had nothing to talk about,
Hmm.
or I would try to make up something to talk about. I felt like I had to. Um, and I didn't feel the need to go really.
Sure.
Um, and so we started going like every other week or every 2 weeks. And I felt in my own day to day life, I felt okay. And where before I didn't feel okay being alone and that I needed to go to therapy, I needed to talk, I needed someone to kind of be a witness to things, and I felt like I needed help, um, with relationships, communication, just day to day things.
Yeah.
And I reached a point where I felt confident in myself enough not to need that anymore. So I think going from feeling like I needed therapy to not really needing it, but wanting it maybe,
Yeah.
um, when I needed it or when I felt like I needed it.
Yeah. Cool. Do you mind talking about the duration, kind of beginning to end? Like, how long did you work with her consistently?
Yeah. Well, I've had a couple therapists.
Okay.
Um, the one that I worked with for the most consistent amount of time was 3 years. And then I transitioned to a different therapist, um, that I still see like maybe once a month when I feel like I need it. So I would say 3 years was the longest duration.
So 3 years of kind of that consistent, like intensive healing work. And then
Hmm.
lately it's been more kind of maintenance. Is that
Yeah,
fair?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Um, what was it like to transition? Can you talk about that? Go from one therapist to another?
Yeah, it was difficult in some ways because of course they're two different people and they have different styles, and
Sure.
I kind of felt like I had to like restart.
Yeah.
And I felt like my previous therapist knew me so well. And then I had to transition to a completely different person and kind of explain my entire life again. And at the same time, I view the time I had with for 3 years with my previous therapist. I was just at a very different stage in my life,
Mhm.
and she really provided me with that support that I needed at that time. And then my current therapist provides me with the exact support I need at my current stage.
Cool. Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Um, I'm curious, which means viewers probably will be too, for the reason for the transition. Was it just logistical, like somebody moved, or was it more about your therapy needs? What was that reason?
Um, I was seeing my previous therapist for a specific thing.
I see.
And once I kind of reached a place where I was okay enough, um, can I wait? Okay, you might
Yeah,
have to cut this out.
it's okay. Yeah. Well, it sounds like your needs changed. Like
Yeah,
is that fair?
yeah, they did change.
Yeah.
And my current therapist that I transitioned to was able to meet my current needs better than my
Okay.
previous therapist.
Yeah. So it was a purposeful decision that you made based on what you needed out of therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Um, okay. And then last question. What would you tell your pre-therapy self?
I would tell my pre-therapy self that it's okay, and I was so worried about being judged, and of course that's not what therapists do, but I didn't know that at the time, and so I would tell myself that you're not going to be judged, and therapy is going to open so many doors for you, and it's going to allow you to release all of the negative and dark energy that I had been holding on to for my entire life. And because I let go of all of that, it allowed me to make room for positive experiences and light to come in.
Hmm.
Um, and that through therapy, I'd find myself and learn about who I was. And I think that's like the most important gift that you can get.
Yeah. Cool. That's my favorite question. I love to see people's faces when they think of themselves, all that time ago and talking to her and telling her, like you said, it's okay. It's going to be okay. I love that. Thank you so much, Megan, for
Thank you.
these questions and participating in Theramonials. I'm so grateful to you. And I know somebody out there is going to find so much value in this. So thank you.
Thank you.